till to somewhere around March what now? Maybe March, the middle of March, right? Anyway, that's just on one hand. But then yesterday there was some kind of threat from the Minister of Housing and Urban Development, because he felt that this is not working. They should bring down the price, and they shouldn't be giving us conditions. And so he threatened that the government would allow massive importation of cement if the price was not reduced across the country. Anyway, for us to have this conversation, to really understand the impact of the high cost of building materials on development in Nigeria, I have on the telephone architect A.B. Bozimo, who also is a public affairs analyst. Welcome to the show, architect A.B. Bozimo.
Hello, good evening. Great to be here. Great to join all of your wonderful listeners again.
All right, great to have you as well. And now for you, the listener, I have a question for you. Get on our social media pages. I would like to hear from you. Should the government open the borders, or should there be a further reduction in the price of cement? Which do you want right now? Which should it be? Open the borders so that it will force the price down. Let's have other people bring in their stuff and perhaps shut down the ones we already have here. Or should they actually have that conversation where they say, this is what we have agreed on, and follow through, right? So should the government open the borders, or should they further reduce the price of cement? Which do you want? All right. And then let's come back to architect A.B. Bozimo. So my first question is, how does the cost of building materials like cement affect the way that, you architects plan and also make buildings?
Okay. First of all, it must be understood that cement, which was discovered literally in Roman times, has become a very central part of construction in many aspects. Most commonly, you see it used in the structural element, i.e., your columns or pillars, as people call them, your floor slab, even exterior in your gutters, in some landscaping elements like your interlocking tiles and so on. You tend to see a lot of cement used. It's also used to plaster your walls before you apply paint or other finishes. So cement has come to be fairly widely utilized, especially in our climate. I didn't forget the normal sandcrete blocks, as they're called, which are made out of cement and sand and some water. So cement is really central to a lot of our construction. And especially in the different types of cement, sand, that now allow them to bring that same skyrocketing cement back down to roughly 7 or 8, depending on logistics to get to a certain location. In my currently uninformed view, it looks like something more than fundamental, what you call market fundamental. And it now leads to that last minister who made threat to open our borders to cement importation. What does that mean? Are we currently having a situation where some people, through their closeness to government, have created a closed economy? If you go on Google compare the price of cement per kg to the price of cement almost anywhere else in the whole wide world, ours is somewhat more expensive. What are those fundamentals? I'm interested in that. So, how do we design, to answer your question? This is actually the time when you must rely more than ever on your professionals. And I'll explain why.
All right.
You see, when there's a lot of money, conceivably, you can design what you want, break it, correct it, and build it again. But it is your professional at this point who will, first of all, have a thorough interaction with you about not only what you want, but especially what you need. Sometimes, because of the homes we grew up in, we might feel in our own age that, you know what, if I don't have a 17-bedroom house, I'm not yet fulfilled. It is your architect who will have the conversation between you, your wife, and everybody and say, what stage of family are you now? Your children have started going to secondary school. In the normal order of things, as your prayers are answered, they will move from secondary to university and out into the world to independence. Sir, madam, do you truly need a 17 or let's call it a 6-bedroom house? It's a question. The second question is, even if we're designing a big house, is it not useful to design it in such a way that as your children fly the coop, we can subdivide it so that you can get rental income? What I'm saying is that you might have to use cement at any point because that is the conventional material. There are other materials that our structural engineers can use for support, like steel, but those two, because they are imported, are also seriously affected.
Yeah, I was even going to ask you for alternatives later on, but since you're there already.
Okay, we'll go into that. So, for cement, you will use it almost inevitably in Nigeria and our surrounding areas. But with careful, considered, professional design, you can optimize its use and you can maximize how far your money goes. So ironically, as these prices are getting more challenging, you would do well to rely on your professional expertise. Your architects, your structural engineer, and all the other people can help you achieve what you need with a little bit of what you want.
Okay.
Those cement is high price.
So now that we have, what's it called now? High cost of cement. I mean, you since I said I was going to ask you the question about other materials or, maybe ways of building that architects can also advise, to ensure that projects are still affordable and safe. Because when it comes to development, I mean, affordability is one of those things. Affordability of houses is one of those things that are considered, right? Affordability of housing. Because if cement prices are high, it means the new houses are going to be also, the rent will also be high. So are there other materials or alternatives that are readily available that could also bring down the price?
Okay. Apart from affordability, safety is the prime consideration of all of your built environment professionals.
Yeah.
So what you often find with concrete, which is, what cement is used to create, is a certain safety factor that is absolutely minimal. You cannot go less than that when your structural engineers design it. This is another reason why you need your professionals. The risk now exists of cost cutting. And this is when, more than ever, your professionals will help you ensure that what is designed is what is achieved. What are some alternatives? Alternative materials and alternative methods. Now, for structural support, sometimes people use steel. In certain construction, steel is often used. Sometimes people can even use wood. Wood is a structural element. And then for the block work, rather than using concrete blocks, you can use laterite with a tiny or a smaller bit of cement infused into it to create a certain cement-enriched earth block. So there are other ways you can approach it. Then there are also clay. Fired clay is another way of using, material to make the walls at least. But in most situations, especially around here, you will still need cement for the structural elements, the ones that support weight and avoid collapse.
Yeah.
And again, safety being at the core of anybody's consideration, of you, the owner, and everybody in the built environment. With safety being so important, you need to rely upon the consultants to ensure that nobody shortchanges you as a potential building or property owner by not delivering what was expected in the design.
Now, we are at a period when the federal government is so much into infrastructural developments. They are constructing roads here and there. And I believe the high cost of cement is not just affecting the man who wants to build a 6-bedroom for his family or the one who's looking to collect rent, right? So how does this cement, high cost of cement and maybe other building materials, but especially cement actually, in what way would it impact the development of Nigeria of today?
In most world economies, the government is the single largest procurer of goods and services. And so that's why I was very intrigued by that threat by another minister of housing that if the cement manufacturers don't get their act together, it is possible for a policy decision to be taken that will open the borders for cement importation. I think that is something cement manufacturers will consider very carefully. But it should all give us cause to reflect. What truly are the components that make cement cost what it costs Nigeria? Is there no way for that cost to be modified downward? Talking of development, you know that bridges, through drainage channel, electricity poles, so many elements of development are directly dependent indeed on cement and its derivatives. So yes, if the cost is so high and there's no control in place, it will definitely have an effect because contracts have already been signed will start running slower as the contractor seeks an open review of the contract. And that is a legitimate request. Now, in normal contracts, there is a provision which is handled expertly by quantity surveyors for price reviews and other things. They know the components, they know where the figures would be applied, and they will now have to review the contract upward. But when we are talking about a country that's already complaining about lack of money for development, you can imagine that to be negative, it will have a negative effect on progress because when those reviews are going on, projects are stalled. Anytime you think of time cost of money. If a contractor has got a loan and he's not delivering as and when expected, he's experiencing a loss. And when you have a loss, you are making a situation where the contractors are going out of business, which will now mean that they are laying off staff, and of course there's a general negative effect. So I maintain that government has multiple ways to approach this cement cost. And I go back to what I said at first. Please, what happens between 4 and 10 days in the whole of Nigeria that makes cement price double or triple? What happened? I'm not saying that prices aren't going, but are you telling me that the companies that claim that they're manufacturing cement in Nigeria were importing? Is that why, because the naira was collapsing relative to foreign currencies, that pricing was going up? Because I know there are policies to try and encourage cement production in Nigeria. And if they're not actually producing
said about infrastructure and how heavily government projects rely on, especially the use of cement for, their construction, the roads, the drainages, and electricity poles that you mentioned. Now, I'm also looking at how the current issue concerning the price of cement could also be of great concern tomorrow, because one of the things that we usually complain about in Nigeria is maintenance. So roads are built, but to maintain them is a problem. Drainages are constructed, maintenance is a problem. Even some other facilities of government, even the state secretariat is one of those things. Anyway, so I'm looking at, if we have this kind of issue right now, and perhaps the contractors are not getting the kind of response they expect, and then they've been given a timeline to deliver. How about the fear of using substandard or lower quality materials, as alternative? Should that also be considered?
As I mentioned, the risk is very real. Every project has a risk. Every properly, conceived project has a risk analysis and a risk register. And the risk of substandard material, substandard execution, substandard inspection is very real. And that is something to be considered. So what you do is that you need to get properly licensed and qualified professionals who have something to lose. You see, as a properly licensed professional, whether an architect, a structural, electrical, mechanical engineer, quantity surveyor, you have a license given to you by the government. You are under the oversight of the professional body and also the government arm. If you go and compromise, they have the right to withdraw your license, which is ordinarily your source of putting food on your table. So when you tell people, to use professionals, it's not just a case of wasting money. It is to ensure the short and long-term integrity of the project. Like what you said, if substandard methods are used or substandard work is done, it will add much more to the maintenance cost down the line. So you might think you're getting a cheap article at the start, but it will cost you so much more. Construction is a holistic environment. Nothing stands alone. Even the price of cement is not alone. It is the material, it is the people, it is the methodology, and of course the goal. So truly, we have that risk, but there are methods within every properly conceived contract to ensure those risks are minimized or indeed eliminated entirely.
All right. So at this point, I would like, if you can, to give us examples of how fluctuations in cement prices may have affected some architectural projects, either positively or negatively.
Well, this is a very relatively recent phenomenon. That we're talking about, this recent rise. Though cement prices have been rising slowly and steadily. At one time, cement was 1, 5, 2, 3. Then it became normalized, so it to be about 5. Then we had this spike recently. I'll tell you this: when you have a project and the quantity surveyors, who I repeat do a remarkable job, come out with what they call a bill of materials, they have identified, measured, and itemized every single item to be used in that project. And the cement component is one of them. If the project is going on normally, you will have the contractor will effect some of the work he will deliver, and according to a given schedule, they'll be paid. That's the normal thing. If the price that they quoted for is now no more realistic, because one of the significant components, cement, which is part of concrete, has gone way beyond what was anticipated, then the contractor naturally will either try and do other work to avoid that cost, or approach the owner and say, "Sir, madam, this is no longer realistic." That owner could be government at that point has to have meetings, meaningful meetings with the contractor, and that leads to a slowdown of the project schedule. Remember, time is money for everybody, both the owner and the contractor, because many contractors raise money from banks, and there's a time cost of money. Now, if you have a project that has slowed down like that, at the end of the day, that cost must be paid. The cost of the delay must be paid.
Yeah.
And sometimes, unfortunately, I find that government tends not to come to the discussion table until matters get out of hand. So I would hope that there's a proactivity. And I can say, to be honest, I noticed that Minister Umahi seems to be the quintessential professional in built environment. He's an engineer, by the way. And he seems to be very actively engaging that sector. It's something to give credit about in the midst of all we are variously facing. So, let's just say there are different projects, but because of this short-term spike, I don't think there will be a long-term impact just yet. Sometimes many projects have what's called a contingency. So if they did 1 or 2 orders of cement in this past 10 days, they might have to rely on the contingency to accommodate that cost. But if it lasts much longer, then there will definitely be real impact, and you will find that projects will be impacted negatively.
So then what perhaps advancements in technology and maybe ideas do you think that will maybe change how buildings are made, perhaps in the future?
Well, you know that people now do printing. It's like 3D printing of houses. And they use tough materials. They use fertilizers. But even with those methodologies, cement is still somewhere in there. Cement has become commonplace, even in foreign countries where they use steel for a lot of construction. The foundations are often concrete because concrete can resist the pressures of the earth, it can resist water, it can resist, all sorts of environmental degradation. So you will find that despite advances, and yet, let me tell you where your consultants can all help you even more, both in a public project and in a private project. You see, very often, buildings are designed without heeding comfort. And if you remember, what we have all been living through in the past 1 or 2 months in this Port Harcourt and around Nigeria is literally living hell. Your consultants now can be very, very meticulous, showing that the environmental credentials of your project are highly considered to ensure that the cooling load and the comfort levels within your building are minimal. Listen, if I have to spend 10,000 naira on an AC system, it's better for that 10,000 naira to last me for 30 days than it is to last me for 10 days. So based on good considered design, an architect will make sure that the environment inside your project, whether public or private, is naturally cooler and will minimize how much discomfort users of that building experience. Think about it. In an office building, if everybody is hot, there is very low productivity. If you work very hard all day and you come home and you cannot sleep because of heat, you will not be the best worker the next day. So your design professionals using every methodology today, there are different specifications that your mechanical and electrical engineers and your architects can apply to ensure that your buildings are more comfortable. So there is ongoing technology, but whether you like it or not, to an extent, you will still encounter cement. We can minimize it, we can optimize it, but we'll definitely encounter it in construction.
Interesting. Thank you so much, Architect Ebi Bozimo. Well, we'll get to the phone lines now. And back to the question that I asked you earlier, I would like to hear from you. Should the government open the borders? I mean, there was a threat. We will open the borders if people will not reduce the price of cement. So should they go ahead and do that? Or should there be a further reduction in the price of cement from the 8,000 naira that they have agreed on 2 days ago? So what's your take? Let's hear from you. The numbers to call are 0817-923-0002, 0817-923-0002, or 0817-923-0003, 0817-923-0003. You can also send a message via WhatsApp to 0809 030 6416. 0809 030 6416. We'll have on Facebook. Let's hear from you there as well. Get on Facebook and drop a comment. Nigeria Info 92.3 PH. I know it's raining, but the network is good. So let's hear from you. Jeremiah from Andoni. Welcome to Hard Facts.
Okay. You're welcome, Constance. I actually, the questions you ask about to open the border or to regulate the price of cement. For me, my own opinion is to open the border for other companies that are manufacturing cement in Nigeria. People are dying because of this high cost of cement in the market now. My sister, please beg the government to open the border for cement to come in. For contractors to enable contractors to construct roads and other things. Even people who can be able to build a 6-room block cannot be able to do it again. Please, I'm just begging the nation of Nigeria.
All right, Jeremiah. Thank you, Jeremiah. Kayode from Oyibo, welcome.
Yes. Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah. Please, my own case. I would like the borders to be open.
Why?
Not just for only cement and other items like rice.
So you won't be happy. You won't be happy if they reduce the price further.
Yes, they should reduce the price further. Even if they open the border, they should reduce the price further. But at the same time, other items will come in because the suffering is too much. You can hear people committing suicide. I've not had before. I'm a 60-year-old man. I've not had this kind of thing.
All right, thank you very much.
Committing suicide.
All right, Kayode, your line was breaking at some point. Thank you very much. All right, so I'm still asking you, which do you prefer? What do you think should happen? Open the borders or further reduce the price of cement? You know what's going to happen if the borders are open, right? So first of all, the prices will actually come down. But then, there's another thing that might happen. Have you considered that? I'm going to ask Architect Ebi to tell us though. But for now, let's take your calls. Budu from Eliparawo, welcome.
Yeah, fine. Yes, I want to contribute a little on this program.
All right, go on, sir.
I'm wondering why Nigeria, we are really suffering ourselves so much. Bro, I stayed in Benin, but here in Nigeria, that is the closest border to Nigeria. And the part of Bozimo that are staying in Benin, Nigeria supply light to us. I'm telling you today that the constant light in Bozimo. That's very part I am living. They never sees light one day, but we don't have light here. Cement price is low. Rice is low. What is the problem? Let us help ourselves. These people, they are increasing price of cement, price of cement. What does it really take for them to manufacture cement? We just large population. Population is money. Where there's a lot of people that are buying from you, you reduce your price. But the mentality in Nigeria, they continue to increase. Where are we heading to? See, when Amechi was at Ghana, Amechi saw that it's need for motorcycle to stop in River State. I was traveling to Ghana in 2016. You can't see motorcycle in Ghana. Amechi said yes. The type of accident happening in River State for motorcycle. Amechi come back and stop a bike in Port Harcourt.
Okay.
And it remains. And today we are enjoying. There's no Okada in Port Harcourt City. Government should speak.
All right.
Government should say something in what we are seeing today.
All right,
if
Budu.
they say something, this needs to be minimized.
Thank you, Budu. Chris from Port Harcourt, please go on.
Yeah, good evening.
Welcome,
Yeah.
Chris. Oh, Chris.
Yeah, welcome. Let me see how people can go into the business. This the price document they are bringing 7,000. Who agreed to bring the price of cement to 7,000? They don't know what is 8,000 and 7,000, 1,000, 2,000, 8,000. Are they aware that a room now is going to 10 to 12,000 naira? How much is the minimum wage of how much are they paying? So to me, reducing the price to 7,000, that is policy to keep involved them. They should open border. I can go into the business and bring them, say the price, the amount. I can even give government, this is how much I bought. Then government will say, okay, sell at this price. Fine. Not to tell me that they are removing how much. They should open border.
Thank you very much, Chris. Hello, JAJ. Welcome back.
Yes, good evening, my sister.
Good evening once again.
Now, before the agreement, according to federal agreement today, thank God they agree on this one. They were selling for like 13,000 naira, right?
Could you say that again?
What were the indices or the variables that they now consider before they now say, okay, let's do it for 7,000? And how long will this whole thing last before it change again? So reducing the price without knowing what was removed, or these people were making more than enough gain before, the federal government has said, okay, you cannot make this game, let's put the benchmark and all those, because they said, for instance, on the area of opening borders so that these things can come in. I don't know. Because we close this border to make sure that the local company produce well, like the rice farmers said they were doing well before, about 34 farmers were slaughtered in a day and nothing come out. And the companies are even leaving. So I don't know. This whole thing, we have paid the government people to sort of thing for us, but my sister, it's raining. Let me just rest.
Okay, thank you for calling, JJ. Let's see here. Please, what kind of meeting did Umahi agreeing cement to be sold for 7K to 8K? 70% of materials for cement production are local. Enough of wicked monopoly and self-interest. Please, Umahi is on his own. Ami for Ernest from Port Harcourt. All right, but I need you to answer my question actually. Which one are you going for? Open the borders or further reduce the price of cement? Which one do you advocate for? Good afternoon, Constance. My name is Comrade Odiadi God's Power Positive from Engeni in Awelga, River State. Please, they should reduce the price to 2,000 naira or open the border. We don't have leaders. It's very unfortunate. What we have here are rulers. Thank you. All right. Federal government should open the borders. I beg. Nothing will happen than price of cement going down. Nigerians are suffering and we need our borders open. Christian Williams from Igboeche. All right, Christian Williams, I see your message. Thank you. Let's see another one here. The very brother AZ on Facebook says, right now, due to hunger, we citizens can no more say anything because the more we talk, the more they make things harder for us. You're one person and you're referring to yourself as we the citizens. It's amazing. All right, I'm still taking your calls. But while I wait for the call screener to screen your calls, let me get back to my resource person, Ebi Bozimo. Now, last year's October, it was in the news. Bua Cement announced that they're reducing their price to about 3,500 naira or so. And it was all over the place. I remember I think one of the callers said, oh, it's not going to work. All right. And that was just October of last year. At some point, there were even reports that it sold for like 5,300 to 5,500. Now, that is one company on their own reducing the price of cement. And then all of a sudden, it became like everybody started selling at a particular rate. Between that time and now, this is what we have. From 12.5 to 13, 14, 15, depending on the location, actually. So if one of the companies can actually decide to reduce the price of cement, What would be the impact of opening the borders if all of them are refusing to reduce the price further?
I think, again, there's, like one of the callers said, there's been a deliberate effort to try and promote local content. However, I think it's way beyond time for us to assess and estimate how effective and efficient are these policies. I mean, it may be on the surface, but the only reason that I can really lay my hands on for the cement have skyrocketed recently was because they were pricing it vis-a-vis the dollar, meaning they were importing it. And that doesn't seem realistic. So we need to know what the fundamentals are. I know that there's a template people have speculated for the landing price of petrol and what will now mean at the pump. What are the components of cement price per bag? Let's understand. Like one of the callers or messages said, 80% of the components, limestone, this and that, are here. If there's an intervention the government has to do, it should maybe to be help manufacturers to minimize their challenges. If you must subsidize anything, subsidize manufacturing in Nigeria. If power is a problem, make power available at, competitive rates. If roads, some of the factories are problems, invest in those. But I still feel the idea of opening the borders, we should not, we're experiencing too many knee-jerk reactions in recent times. I think the CBN 1 week released 6 circulars from the country, and then EFCC went and started shooting guns to keep dollar price down recently. Let's avoid knee-jerk reaction. And
all right.
I would say let's consider all the implications, positive and negative, of opening the border to importation of cement and other products.
All right, I'll come back to you. Sorry, let's take a few calls now. Daniel from Elelenwo, please go on.
Good evening, Constance.
Good evening, sir. Go ahead, please.
I believe Minister of Works, David Umar, should know, as an engineer, I should know that 70% of any construction, you need a cement for it. And accepting or pleading that, okay, the cement should be sold for 7,000 naira or 8,000 naira. How many people are going to afford, will be able to afford the 7,000 or 8,000 naira if we should go by their income? Or they want to reduce all these things to maybe their own standard. So we should have thousands or millions of people that can't afford common things as in shelter to have sex. And you don't want crime when people cannot afford waste.
All right, Daniel. I am Braid from Transamadi. Thanks for staying on the line.
Yeah, good evening, my beautiful Constance.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening to the guests. The way you asked a fundamental question, you said, do we need the price of cement to come down, or do we need the border to be open? Constance, if you ask me, I would say let the border be wide open. Because the whole cement that we see, about 80% of the raw material is within Nigeria. And tell me, what is the rationale over that cement will skyrocket to 15,000, 12,500? Are they having the monopoly of the market? And because they have seen the government that does not have the technical know-how in handling the issue of the country. Because the way things are going, if the government has the technicality, you agree with me, when the government come on board, they still have meeting with this cement industries, their directors, and they told us that cement will be sold at the rate of 3,000 something. But where we are is 15,000, 12,000 something. if the government really know what they are trying to do, the government should be able to understand what is in the market and deal with it fairly, as such that nobody should have monopoly of this country. The country belongs to everybody. It belongs to all of us. So for me, they should open the border widely so that other people can go and import this cement and bring it to us.
All right. Thank you very much, Iambre. Okay, back to you now, Architect AB. You were going to say something about considering the, is it the negatives now?
I apologize, the train of thought at that point. What I think I was just trying to say was, look, we have an opportunity. Yes, I said let's avoid knee-jerk reaction. It's a threat. It's a very real threat. Government can carry it out. But I would like to make sure the government has done a thorough, professional risk assessment of the pros and cons of opening the border to the importation of cement. Vis-a-vis the effort to promote cement production. And that is why I'd like an audit of some sort of what these efforts to make cement available in Nigeria are. I just compare on Google now. The cost of cement in Nigeria, yes, is slightly less than America. But for goodness sake, the cost of living in America is so much higher. We should not be dragging price with them. The metric ton of cement in America is roughly $150 or whatever. In Nigeria, it's like $110. How are we dragging cement with America? You know what I mean? You understand? So we must look at our own economic fundamentals. And before I go, again, what happened in the near 6 to 10 days in Nigeria that makes cement jump from 6,000 to 15,000 in certain places? I don't know that everything changed that much. So we must look at, if I can use the word, economic sabotage as one of the things to expect.
Interesting. Well, thank God Ability at will on WhatsApp says, Constance, top of the evening, the high cost of building materials these days is alarming. Imagine that a bag of 3-inch nail and 4-inch nail was sold at 14,500 naira on January last month. But as of today, a bag of the same 3-inch nail and 4-inch nail that was 14,500 is now 32,000 naira. And a bundle of zinc is now about 228,000 naira. Many construction companies have stopped work. Please help me and tell President Bola Tinubu to reopen our borders to save Nigerians from dying. All right, thank God Ability. That's your message. Someone else is here. Emeka from Iguruta says, Constance, good afternoon. Please, the federal government should open the borders. They closed it so that foreign goods will stop entering. So ours produced here can grow. But since the local product, which includes rice, cement, and the rest, can no longer be purchased here, let them open the borders. Okay. Some other person here says, please, the price reduced to at least 5,000 naira and other items too. Borders should be open to allow other goods into the country. What's your name? Gift from Obogoro. You're choosing two things. I gave you an option to choose one. Good afternoon, Constance. Let the borders be opened to allow for healthy competition among local and foreign cement. We can't allow this Shylock local producers who are wreaking havoc on the citizenry. Government should act fast on this all-important issue. Nnamdi Ogbogu from Oneoga. Please, it's borders. Thank you. Okay. So most of the callers or most of the comments are saying open the borders so that we can have a healthy competition. I mean, you've also mentioned the fact that it's actually one of the things that the minister who was threatening that government is going to open the border has actually brought up. He said the government stopped importation of cement in order to empower you to produce more and sell cheaper. But then it is what it is right now. Any final thoughts, Architect A.B. Bozimo, before we go?
No, I just feel that this crisis have the potential to bring out the most incisive thinking and methodology in construction from all of us. We might have to take a second look at what we need, what we desire, and what the happy medium between those two can be. This is the time to understand that your consultants are actually your best resource, because we can ensure that concrete and many other materials, cement is only one of 1,000 materials in construction, are optimally used and you can still achieve your both mind. Have a wonderful evening.
You too, sir. All right, well, that's it. Now the news at 5 o'clock, and after the news, let's talk navigating the current or lingering petrol issues in Nigeria. What are your expectations as petrol issues linger? What are you looking forward to for yourself, for the country, for the oil and gas industry? Join me after the news at 5. Stay tuned.
We are Nigeria Info. Nigeria, I'm listening.